So the name Comfort Club kind of came from I was making music under my just birth given name, and I was kind of like, this doesn't feel like anything. So I decided to like start thinking of more of a brand rather than like just a name. And I came up with the word club, which obviously a ton of people have done. And then I came up with the word comfort. I just really like the alliteration. It felt really like on brand for me. I always wear like cozy clothes and oversized stuff. So it just kind of felt like it fit me. And then when I started making music with it too, it was like this sonically feels like it fits the name too. So it was all a very organic process. Deciding to do a fully DIY tour somewhat comes from the fact that I wasn't really getting any opportunities. Like I was kind of sitting around waiting for someone else to take me on tour because that I think is like the golden ticket. If you get an opening slot on a tour, it's like you're playing in front of hundreds of people every night, or even less than that, but still you're playing in front of like a devoted fan base, people who have shown that they're willing to become a fan of artists. And waiting for that opportunity, I felt like wasn't going to work. I felt like I had to go out there and like do something myself to show people that like, look, I'm going to do it whether you take me or not. So let's go do a run. And then hopefully we, start making some new fans in new cities and then just start developing a fan base to the point where we can reach out to other bands that are touring and be like, look, we got some people who will come out here in Cleveland if we're playing in Cleveland. So come to the show in Cleveland. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been like a crazy undertaking. Like I booked 15 shows by myself with local support in every city, that's the cool part too, is like, it's not like we're touring with like our friends. We're going and meeting new people in each city and like playing with new bands. And it's as much of like, for me being a fan of music, it's the coolest thing to like have a showcase every night and be like, oh, I'm seeing 2 or 3 new bands every night. It's the coolest feeling so far. Seriously. So I started making an album at like middle of last year. Well, I started writing songs for an album and I'd always wanted to make one. But I finally started like putting the pieces together somewhere in like the summer and fall of last year of 2023. And it was a heartbreak album. I went through my first ever heartbreak and I was like, this is brutal. So I'm going to put a bunch of songs out, surrounding that. And yeah, it's been a pretty crazy process. Just so much involved in like trying to get every detail right. It's way more work than I ever anticipated. But at the same time, it's like feeling like you're making something that's timeless regardless of its success. It's like, this is a stamp in time. This was how I was feeling. And I'm hoping that there's people who are going to resonate with it. But I also hope people aren't getting their heart broken too much because that's not how I want people to connect with it.
I love that answer. I feel like similar way of just making it art and not just...
Yeah, and it's cool to know that like that's an album that people could find 10, 15, 20 years from now. Like it doesn't have to be an immediate overnight success. And the term success is so like watered down at this point that to me success is just putting an album out because I've always wanted to do it. So I know it makes me sound like a hippie, but I think success for me for sure is just like getting an album out into the world and like crossing that off the list of things I've always wanted to do. Yeah, so I'd say the inspiration came a lot, honestly, from the band Joan, if anyone's familiar with them. They're kind of like indie pop / indie rock. I was listening to Super Glue by them a lot when I was writing this album. And then I've always had like the early 2000s, like John Mayer, who else? Pretty much John Mayer. The early 2000s vibe of like those first 2 albums from him that are just so like organic and so... just like live drums and like really pretty guitar parts. And I just tried to like think about melodies, think about like really speaking my heart with the lyrics. And it all feel like it came together pretty organically and became an album that sort of works from cover to cover. So that was a really cool experience.
Any last things you want to share with people?
Room for Squares is phenomenal.
There you go. Yeah, that was honestly a huge inspiration. When I was in college, I was listening to so many just like live shows from there's this website called like Archive, I think it is. And you can like listen to live tapes from any era. And like, there's all these like 2001 John Mayer shows where he's just playing an acoustic guitar and that's it to like a room of 400 people. And it's so cool to hear like the arrangements of the songs and start thinking more of like using a little bit more colorful chords. In my past music, I was just using like a standard major minor chord. And now I'm using like open tunings and like weird suspended chords that I've never used before. I stole a lot from the 1975 on this album, not a bunch in like in maybe like the sonic sense, but definitely in like the texture of like there's there's those like instrumental like swells at the beginning of songs and stuff like that that I just feel like is really cool for the live setting too, to have this really like organic feel again. I think I just keep coming back to the word organic, and that's what the album is. Cool. Thank you, Rugs.